Somebody hit me up with something right quick.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I got Mr. Hold on for a minute. That's okay. Go ahead and shut the door. You ready? Okay.
Do we need to do this later? Are you okay?
No. How long is it gonna take? It probably won't be long. It's just everybody,
Probably.
You know how the day goes.
Okay, yeah, just about 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's all right. Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so today I am talking with Mrs. Kimberly Garrick, principal, well, my soon-to-be former principal, unfortunately. But I wanted to talk to her a little bit about curriculum and kind of her role as principal and leader. And also, since she's got a unique take going from elementary to middle, and talk about the changes on that, and also
Right.
kind of transition that mindset. So, when it comes to curriculum, what do you see the principal's main role as curriculum in curriculum, either development or implementation?
Well, in most cases, in most systems, the curriculum is already pretty much established at the district level. And it's just a matter of principals or leaders ensuring that it is followed um, in a way that it is passed down to teachers and everyone in that particular uh, school, to ensure that we are all following the same criteria to meet our educational goals. So for a while here, we did not have what you would say is a set curriculum here, primarily because we did not have anyone that oversaw that. So in the absence of that, uh, that became my responsibility to ensure that I developed a curriculum so that we can follow. And for us, it happened to be a program that was already put in place, and we utilized that as our curriculum. And my primary job was to ensure that we followed that and used the course of study to make sure that it was in line with the state course of study, so that we could meet all of our educational goals that we had set forth for the school.
Okay, and that's pretty much that A+ that you're talking about there.
Exactly. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's been a great tool. I'm such a huge fan of that. What has
Okay.
been the biggest change as far as going from an elementary background to a middle school background, as far as curriculum wise? Was there?
Wow, that was huge for me. That was huge because from the elementary standpoint, we really did have um, a set curriculum in that we were using what was it called back then? It wasn't. We had ARI, um,
Okay.
the Alabama Reading Initiative, which helped to outline a lot of things that we were doing. We were using basal content, so most of our reading materials and everything was provided, and as long as we followed those ARI standards and keeping in with the course of study, that helped us to stay on track. That uh, elementary, building those foundational skills for reading and even for math, putting those, that was building the foundational skills at the elementary level. So it's pretty easy. And as far as uh, each one, the grade levels, uh, working separately but together. Coming over into the secondary phase, moving up from there, our curriculum, what we were taught at the elementary level, coming into the secondary level, it did not flow. coming over into the secondary, there were several pieces to the pie. There were, first of all, everyone had their individual content area that they focus on. And what I noticed that we were using is that everyone was using, a different resource to build upon. And it was not, it did not flow from the elementary to the secondary. And I saw that immediately, especially in their area of math. But what I did find that we could do was build those unique strategies in the way children are taught to do certain skills. So if you build the strategies in there and you stay in line with what the course of study is or what the standard is, that always helps. However, what I found when you get to the secondary level, we got away from the uniqueness of having small groups.
Mhm.
When I first came here to the middle school, we did have a reading coach, a part-time reading coach, which I felt was essential. And then only had that reading coach for a year, maybe the 1 year I was there, and then we lost that reading coach, which was essential, and learning how to do small groups. So then we brought in outside resources to help our secondary team learn how to do those small group strategies in order to teach those standards and skills for our students who were coming up from the elementary. So that's the part for me that was kind of difficult with the secondary. They teach 30-some kids, they throw it out there, they get it, and they move on.
Yeah, that was one of the
Not a
things
lot of reteaching. Yeah.
that was one of the things I really appreciate that you brought in, was you kind of reminded us, hey, they're still babies. We can still use a lot of this stuff that we use in elementary. They're still going to want to do it, and that was a great thing. And do you still see that disconnect? I remember we've talked before about Go Math, how it's done to fifth grade, and then there's nothing
Right.
really to transition it.
Right.
Do you see that is changing a little bit? Do you see it
It's still problematic, but it's changing in that once we realized that we really needed to merge the transition grades to ensure that those teachers were talking and making sure that they knew exactly what was needed, like sixth grade teachers talking with fifth grade teachers and eighth grade teachers talking to ninth grade teachers. And when we got into A+, that really helped to begin to bridge that gap, because before no one knew what the others were doing. The kids were coming up there saying, well, they don't know how to do this. Well, they were taught a specific way to do certain skills in math that you all don't do. You go back to old school, just depending on who the teacher was. So there was no real foundation for the transition coming from elementary up to middle school and from middle school going up to high school. But now with the A+, it did that. And moving forward, although we're going to be doing A+ one more year, using iReady is going to merge that, because it goes from kindergarten all the way up to eighth grade. And with that being in place, that's going to definitely fill those gaps in, using that as an intervention piece to help, bridge those gaps that we've had between those grade levels.
right? Another thing too, benchmarking. How that's in another class I'm taking. We read about RTI model and all that kind of stuff too. Do you think, how much is too much as far as benchmark tests? Do you think is it possible to do too much?
I think it depends on the stamina of the students that you teach.
Okay.
In our case, I think that too much could be anything more than 3 times a year, because at that point, they don't necessarily take it as something that's real important to them really learning and taking it seriously, and how it impacts on the school. And I think more than anything, I think with educators now is the pressure is put on um, for us to have the results. And because that pressure is put on to have results, people, teachers tend to do whatever they think is going to work. And we forget that each child learns differently. We say it all the time. We always say, yeah, you know, every child is different. They learn differently. But when we're trying to reach that goal that we know that we have to meet, well, guess what? So many of them need to be proficient, this and other. We forget all that. But if we would go back to making the learning, I think making the learning fun, not just for students, but for teachers too, where they can get out of them and be creative, regardless of what you're using as a resource or what you're using, quote, as a curriculum model. If you go back to look at, okay, well, we didn't quite get a chance to do that today. And although this timeline we have said they have to have it here, if we know that they're not there, let's go back and do it in such a way that now learning is something that the kids are pushing to do. You know, it makes it so much easier when kids can say, hey, Mr. Holder, you know that thing we talked about the other day? How can we do that? And then you, as an educator, find a way to bring that standard or that skill in there for the same thing that they want to do. We got to make things real to kids nowadays. And going back to answer that question about how much testing is too much, I think it depends on the group of kids that you're teaching. Wherever you build them up to, they'll do it. Just like during the virtual learning, you allowed me to come in on the game that y'all were doing, and those students that you had in there, I've never seen them so enthusiastic about this little learning competition. It brought back memories from when I was in school, and I was like, and then I got competitive with the kids. I was like, okay, now you beat me on it. That wasn't supposed to happen. So now, I mean, you saw me. I was serious now. They like me. So I think that benchmarking and assessing, I think it just depends on that teacher and the students that they have. I think if we build them to a certain point, if you wanted to see how they're doing once a week, if you built that kind of stamina within your classroom with your students, they'll let you know what they're ready for. Some kids have test anxiety and they can't do it that often. I just think it just depends on the culture and climate you build with how you do assessments.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you've got 100,000 things to do, so I'm going to let you go so you can go.
Already, we're done?
Yeah, that was 10 minutes. Yeah, we're good.
I thought we were going to get some more deep stuff, man. I was ready.
Well,
I just got ready, man.